Auteur, pimp, and 2002 Player Hater of the Year, Silky Johnson once said, I hate you, I don't even know you, and I hate your guts. I hope all the bad things in life happen to you and nobody else but you. The question is Steve Spurrier becoming the real life Silky Johnson? Is he heir apparent to the throne of Player Hater of the Year? He's got a lot of people up in arms over the last 24 to 48 hours after he took a shot at Arch Manning that everybody is crowning as the savior of college football. Or is Steve just telling the truth? Welcome into Wire to Wire. He's Cole Bryson. My name is Diesel. And you Tolos, which stands for Turn On, Leave On. And the 31 of you who are already watching on the stream, jump in on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube. Welcome to the show. Everybody knows that Steve Spurrier has a long history of amazing one-liners. He is the absolute GOAT. There's no question whatsoever that he is the absolute best at needling other teams. For example, saying things like, you can't spell citrus without UT, saying there are no Vanderbilts in the NFL, and saying I always sort of liked playing Georgia the second game because you could always count on them having 2 or 3 players suspended. He's the best. Nobody can touch Steve Spurrier. So is he just throwing out one-liners, or does he really have a vendetta against the Mannings?
Steve Spurrier, Diesel's a college football icon, and I think one of the things that makes him so great is that Steve Spurrier says what he wants, and he says it when he wants, and he really just doesn't care. You know what I mean? I mean, don't we see that in today's world where people just they are themselves, they say whatever they want, they operate on their own schedule. They do what they want. They quit in the middle of the season. I mean, no, I'm serious. Like, Steve
Leave
Spurrier,
the covered bear, screw the program for a decade.
He's the same person 30 years ago as he is today. And I'll tell you this before we get into what he said. You weren't here. You were on vacation. I told this story, but I don't think you heard it because you were on vacation. So, and tell me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to repeat the story if I did tell you, Diesel. Did I tell you the story on how I got Steve Spurrier on the show when you were gone? Did I tell you that?
No.
Okay, so about a month prior to you going on vacation, this was what? Was this last month? June? May. Sorry, May.
Yeah.
You were out for, a week, right? In May. So about a month prior to that. This is probably late March, early April, Diesel. I have a friend of mine who works at the University of Florida, okay? I asked my friend, I said, hey, do you think we could get Steve Spurrier on the show? This is, again, late March, early April.
Good get.
She said, yeah, I can probably hook you up with his assistant. So guess what? She hooks me up with his assistant. We talk on email for 3 or 4, probably 2 to 3 weeks. And she says, hey, I'm going out of town. The assistant, Steve Spurrier's assistant. She was going out of town the same week you were out of town. And she said, I'm going to leave you his number, and I'm going to leave him your number. And I said, well, do you want to line it up, put it on his calendar? She said, no, he'll just call you. And I'm like, oh, God, whatever.
Any random phone call that comes in could be Steve Spurrier.
So it gets better. You ready for this? It gets better. Diesel, I am sitting, one day, I'm sitting in my office 30 minutes before the show starts with Rob Jones. You know Rob.
Yeah.
From WORD across the hall, right?
Big fan. Love his work.
So Rob and I are sitting there. It's about 2:25. My phone rings, and I didn't know the number. I picked up the phone, and guess who it was? It was Steve Spurrier. At like 2:25.
Wow.
And I said, hey, Coach, how are you? He said, I'm good. He said, my assistant, she told me you wanted to do an interview with me. And I said, yeah, Coach. I said, I'd love to. Do you want to schedule it? Put it on the calendar? When do you want to do it? He said, no, I want to do it right now. And I had him on speakerphone. Rob Jones is sitting there like, what on earth is happening right now? So I run in here at 2:30. We go on here at 3, and I record the interview at 2:30. But guess what?
Great.
That goes back to my point. Steve Spurrier does what he wants when he wants. He has no filter. What do they say? He gives zero
bleeps. Yeah.
That's what Steve Spurrier does.
Well,
man.
Steve Spurrier, being the winningest coach in two SEC schools' history, Florida and South Carolina. Number one, he's got all the credibility in the world, right? Number two, he's got all the money in the world, so you can try to silence him. You could tell him he's a mean guy, but he doesn't care.
Doesn't care.
He doesn't care. Like the only way to beat people that try to cancel you. Remember a couple years ago when we were canceling everybody, canceling comedians, canceling athletes, canceling this person, that person. The only way to beat it is to genuinely not care what those people say. Yeah, you can dox me or whatever online, but if I don't care what it is you have to say, I'm just going to keep talking. So the only way to beat them is to not care what they have to say. And Steve Spurrier has no reason to care what anyone has to say. As a matter of fact, this was the title of the article on CBS Sports. Tell me if there's not some sort of agenda in the title here. Steve Spurrier, half-baked swipe at Arch, a revival of a long-held fixation with the Manning family. You think there was some sort of pointed direction? They wanted you to hate Steve Spurrier already before you even read the article, before you even heard the clip? They want you to think that Steve Spurrier is just this big, mean guy who's been making fun of the Mannings for decades.
But, again, though.
Yeah. But he's right.
He's
right.
You stole my words. You're right.
So let's hear the audio of Steve and his quote about Arch.
They've got Arch Manning already winning the Heisman, too.
Yep.
And my question is, if he was this good, how come they let Quinn Ewers play all the time last year? If
Even
Arch
though he was hurt a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's still.
and he was a 7th-round pick.
Yes. Exactly.
And Arch is going,
And now they're saying Arch is going to be the first pick.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Well, you only have to ask the coach Sark. Yeah. How come you played that one instead of this one? Hopefully he'll say, because we thought he was better in that one.
Yeah.
Isn't that why you played one guy and not the other?
Yeah. I love it. If he was that good,
love that, man.
how come they let Quinn Ewers play all last year? He was a 7th-round pick. Wow. Taking shots or telling the truth? I mean, look, Quinn could have – if Sark had decided, you know what, we think this guy Arch is so good that we're going to bring him in. Sorry, Quinn. Like, we don't even need to see him, right? We don't need to see him go through workouts. We don't need to see him go through spring camp. We already think it's good. You might as well go ahead and enter the transfer portal because you're done here at Texas. But he didn't do that.
It's funny you brought this subject up in the very first segment because a friend of mine sent me a text earlier today around lunchtime about this, about Arch Manning and being the favorite or one of the top favorites to win the Heisman, right? I think according to some books, Diesel, he is the favorite to win the Heisman. So what Steve Spurrier said there in those 32 seconds, is it wrong for Steve Spurrier to say that? I don't necessarily think so. He's not in the game anymore. Everybody nowadays, Diesel, has a voice, an opinion, right, in terms of what they think. I didn't take it as he was questioning Sark, did you?
No.
I thought he was just saying, look, let's see.
Well, he's trying to tell everybody to pump the brakes.
That's right.
Pump the brakes. Heisman. The guy's never played a full season as the starter in college football. And we're calling him a Heisman favorite. See, this is what we do, though, right? We always pick a guy, whoever it may be, and we hype him up like JoJo the Indian Circus Boy.
Yeah.
And you talk about this guy like he's your pretty little pet, and then you strangle it. For those of you who have seen Tommy Boy, you know what I'm talking about. And that roll that you strangle and break into a million pieces is this fantasy that an athlete is going to be something that they may or may not turn out to be. Give it time. I mean, we thought coming out of high school that Cade Klubnik was this elite, amazing quarterback, and it's taken him 2 years and possibly 3 to achieve that, and that's okay. Allow it to happen, right? We are so twitchy to move on to the next thing so fast. We don't give anyone or anything time to develop.
That's the world we live in, right? Let's break this audio down, not word by word, but piece by piece here from Spurrier.
They've got Arch Manning already winning the Heisman, too.
Yep.
And my question is, if he was this good, how come they let Quinn Ewers play all the time last year.
So I'm going to stop it there.
Yep.
So Spurrier's question is, if he was this good, how come they let Quinn Ewers, not Ewers, play all the time last year, right?
He's taking a shot at Quinn, too, because he didn't bother to learn how to say his name.
Right. So he didn't learn how to say his name. Number two, most importantly, Diesel, Steve Spurrier, you got to look at it from this. Steve Spurrier's job when he was the head ball coach, when he was coaching, his job was to make these types of decisions, right? Yeah. His job was to evaluate quarterbacks. And guess what? At the end of the day, you have the same goal every year. Your goal is to be playing in that last game of the year, and your goal is to win that last game of the year. I think Spurrier's looking at it from the standpoint, Diesel, of, well, okay, if this guy's so great, was Sark just so loyal that it didn't matter? Or if this guy's so great, what was the reason? Was it loyalty, or what was the reason? Because, well, maybe two things here. Number one, maybe Spurrier didn't watch Quinn Ewers a lot. Or maybe he did watch him a lot and thought, Quinn Ewers just didn't really impress me. One of those is true, right?
And maybe he's given Steve Sarkisian enough credit to say maybe he saw something that all of these people who are pumping Arch Manning up to be the greatest, to be the Heisman favorite, maybe he knew that Arch wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And so you got to play Quinn, even if Quinn is flawed, right? And Quinn took Texas to the playoff, for crying out loud. Even if he's a flawed quarterback, he's still better than Arch Manning is right now. Doesn't mean Arch can't become what we all think he's going to be. Doesn't mean that he can't win the Heisman a couple of years down the road. But he's saying, slow down. And by the way, could we please, I don't know how much money it's going to take, but could we please replace Lee Corso as Steve Spurrier on College Game Day?
I love it, man.
Spurrier on Game Day
with Saban
and McAfee and oh my God.
It'd be good. It'd be really good.
That'd be the best show ever.
So here we go. We're picking back up here.
Last year.
Even though he was hurt a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he still.
And he was a 7th-round pick.
Yeah.
So then he brings up the fact that this is kind of like, I don't want to say disrespectful, Diesel, but this is kind of where it's like, oh, whoa. Spurrier talking about Quinn Ewers being a 7th-round pick. So basically what he's getting at now, this is just me parsing his words a little bit. You've got a Heisman contender, and then you've got a guy who went in the 7th round, but you played the 7th round guy over potentially the Heisman. In what world will any coach out there will play a guy who goes in the 7th round over a Heisman quarterback? I think that's the way Spurrier's looking at it here. Again, it's very simple. He said,
and he was a 7th-round pick.
Yeah,
it's a 7th-round pick, is what Spurrier said there. So, yeah, he wasn't a 7th-round pick before the draft. Obviously, we didn't know exactly where it'd go, if it was 2nd or 7th, to be fair, right? To be a little bit fair.
Now they're saying Arch is going to be the first.
But man, they're saying Arch is going to be number 1. Yeah. Maybe possibly the number 1 overall pick, possibly the Heisman winner. There's so many ifs. I think that's where Spurrier's coming in and saying, well, if he's this great, why in the world would Steve Sarkisian play a 7th-round pick over a potential number 1 overall pick and a Heisman Trophy winner?
Dan B brings up a good point. I had it on the rundown to bring it, Dan. He says, I wonder why Spurrier hates the Mannings. Peyton was 0-4 against Florida. Eli was 2-0. He obviously we all know that he went after Tennessee a lot. He went after Peyton a lot, but Peyton Manning never beats Steve Spurrier's Florida team. So to call it a long-held fixation with the Manning family, that's not true. That's disingenuous. Look, he's an entertainer. He's an entertainer. He's figured it out. Now, by the way, it wouldn't be the first time the media has pumped up an incoming college quarterback as if they're going to be the savior of the sport, Cole. I just looked over the last 25 years. Maybe some of these names you remember, at least remember hearing talked about, but then never going on to do great things. Mm-hmm. How about Tate Martell? 43-0 in high school, 5-star guy. He bounced around 3 different schools, ended up at UNLV.
Yeah.
He went Ohio State to Miami to UNLV. How about Garrett Gilbert, who was the heir apparent to Colt McCoy, who washed out at Texas, by the way? How about Ryan Perilou, LSU to Jackson State? He was suspended multiple times at LSU. How about Mitch Mustaine? How about Spencer Rattler? Not throwing shade at you, South Carolina fans, but Spencer Rattler, supposed to be this all-everything guy, lost his job to Caleb Williams at Oklahoma. Undrafted free agent in 2024. Went on to have a good last couple of seasons at South Carolina. No hate on Spencer Rattler whatsoever. But he was predicted to be, oh my God, can you believe this guy? I mean, they do it every single year. Every year, somebody gets this tag. They get picked. Like, you're the guy that we're going to balloon up in the media. We're going to put you on magazine covers. We're going to interview you all the time. We're going to fly you here. We're going to fly you there. Nowadays, you're getting all this NIL money. It's a tremendous amount of pressure to put on any 18, 19, 20-year-old. And Steve is ultimately, in his own very special, needly way, saying, pump the brakes on Arch. Just give it some time.
If you want to go back to the Steve Spurrier, Peyton Manning conversation for a minute, Dan B brought it up, right? Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? There's one thing that Steve Spurrier has that Peyton Manning doesn't have. You know what that is? A Heisman Trophy.
Oh.
So, I'm just saying, Steve Spurrier won the Heisman. Peyton Manning didn't. Which, now, you can say Peyton Manning should have, right? Guess what else? Deshaun Watson also should have, but he didn't. Peyton Manning didn't win the Heisman. 'Charles Woodson won it. Lamar Jackson won it.
At the end of the day, the trophy is where the trophy is.
And you know what? I guess that's the one up on him, right? That's the one up. Despite the record that you brought up, that Dan B brought up, Steve Spurrier won that Heisman Trophy. And look, again, I'll play the full thing. I don't. You tell us if you disagree. I don't consider this disrespectful.
They've got Arch Manning already winning the Heisman too. Yep. And my question is, if he was this good, how come they let play all the time last year?
Even though he was hurt a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's still.
And he was a 7th-round pick.
Yes, exactly.
And Arch is going,
And now they're saying Arch is going to be the first pick. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Well, you only have to ask the coach Sark. Yeah. How come you played that one instead of this one? Hopefully he'll say, because we thought he was better in that one.
Yeah.
Isn't that why you played one guy and not the other?
And see, I don't see that as disrespectful, Diesel. I would probably even say if Steve Spurrier was sitting down with Arch Manning's dad and Peyton Manning, right, and Eli Manning, I bet that those three would probably agree in the sense that there is a lot of hype because the Mannings have never been like, look at me, it's all about me. Arch now isn't that way. He said the other day in an interview, look, I think he was with what's his name, Diesel. He was doing an interview on ESPN with our guy that does all the NASCAR and the golf.
Oh, Michael Collins.
No, I'm sorry.
Nope.
You know who I'm talking about.
Marty Smith.
Marty Smith. Yes, thank you. He was doing an interview with Marty, and he said, look, it's never been about what I want to accomplish. It's always been about, for me, playing the game that I love. And when you hear Arch Manning speak, he's not cocky. He's not flamboyant. He's very humble, right? He'll tell you straight up that it's not about him. It's about his teammates. And I do respect that. When you talk about the Mannings, I respect that that Arch is a team guy just as Eli and Peyton was. And the world we live in now, and the society we live in now, Diesel, where it's all about me. That's refreshing to see, and that leads me back to the point of if those three were in a room, I don't think they'd necessarily disagree with what Steve Spurrier said. It is what are we talking about? It's talking season, right? He hasn't done anything yet. We got to see how this thing plays out.
And that's part of my struggle this time of year as we are leading up to college football. Everybody wants to hear your predictions for what you think is going to happen. Well, I never claimed to be an expert on college football. I certainly don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's going to happen. So I don't really enjoy predicting and projecting and making stuff up just for the sake of filling time. But that's, part of what we have to do this time of year. You got to sell magazines. You got to sell, subscriptions. You got to get people to click on websites. We're a business after all. That's what we're all trying to get people to do. We're all in the clicks business, no matter what they tell you. But yeah, I mean, to try to turn this thing around as CBS Sports did and try to make Steve Spurrier look like the jerk for, in his very own unique way, saying, hey, pump the brakes on this guy.
Yeah.
I think that's more disingenuous than anything Steve Spurrier had to say.
Texter from the 923 says Steve Spurrier is an old dinosaur. He's complete sellout for what he did to the Gamecocks. He definitely has a vendetta. He hates the Mannings. That comes from Dewey.
You got to put some more.
I know.
oomph.
So, let me try that again.
There you go.
How about that? Is that better, Dewey? Is that better, Dewey?
That's all we
Dewey's
want.
still on restriction until what's today?
Friday. He can call
He
in
can
on
call
Friday.
in on Friday.
Dewey can come out and join us on location tomorrow if he wants to. Maybe we'll put a headset on him tomorrow. 2000 Woodruff Road at the brand new MTC Federal Credit
Dewey doesn't
Union
have
branch.
a GPS, though. I don't know.
You think Dewey has a driver's license
or a map?
or a library card?
Maybe. Dewey, don't let him do that to you. Dewey, don't do it. Diesel, there are some pretty bad storms popping up throughout the upstate. So Tolo's out there. If you are experiencing some pop-up storms and bad weather where you are, let us know so we can relay the information. I saw on Facebook or somewhere a few minutes before we went on the air that because of the something today in the something, Diesel, there was a disturbance in the something, and there's going to be a lot of storms today.
A disturbance in the force?
That was the
Somebody's
expert.
killing younglings.
I sounded like an expert when I said that, didn't I? A weatherman.
He says he's an expert.
So Tolo's out there. If it's getting nasty your way, I can start to see it kind of getting like not dark, but some clouds building up out toward the left. So help your other Tolos out and let them know what areas to avoid if it is if you do experience some pop-ups, Spartanburg, Greenville, Anderson, wherever you may be on this Wednesday. Diesel, I had in the next segment, I had a segment about AAU being to blame for Achilles tears. Audio from Matt Barnes. This is really good audio. However, so let me tell you what happened. I was prepping for this segment, and I sent this video of Matt Barnes to a friend of mine, Lane Fowler, who's the basketball coach at Burns, who does the Burns football broadcast with me during the fall. And I said, hey, as a coach, you coached for a long time, 20-plus years. What are your thoughts on this? And he watched the video. He said, can I call in the 4 o'clock hour? So I said, yeah. So I'm going to move that to 4. And now, instead of the Achilles conversation, let's go into the 4 o'clock segment of what was the 4 o'clock segment. It's now the 3:20 segment, Diesel. We are going to do the same thing in the NFL that we did in college football. Yesterday, or was it Monday, we did our 8 top storylines. It was yesterday, right? It was not storylines. It was yesterday we did the 8 bold predictions because we're 8 weeks away from the college football season. Well, now let's flip it to the NFL. We're 10 weeks away from the NFL season beginning, where my Dallas Cowboys will beat the Eagles on Thursday night to open the season. The 10 top quarterbacks heading into the 2025 football season. We compile that list with the help of you Tolos next. Well, we've got to find 10. We've got to rank 10. That's what we do this time of year, Diesel. It's list season. It's talking season. It's Mount Rushmore season, right? It's time to put together our lists. And Tolos, if you just tuned into the show, number one, welcome into Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. So good to be with you on this Hump Day edition on the Fan Upstate. Tolo's already sending in text on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line about who number one is on our list and who would be 2 through 10. Why are we doing 10 top quarterbacks going into the 2025 season? Well, we are, Diesel, 10 weeks away from the NFL. 8 from college, 10 from the NFL. We can do it. We can get there.
We got that Hall of Fame game coming.
Yeah, it's not bad.
The Field of Dreams game.
We'll have training camp here soon, right?
Yeah.
We can do this. We can do it. Tolos, we need your help on this. The phone lines are open at 844-326-3663, 844-FANFONE. That's the number. One number does it all. Call or text the show. Send in number one and then the number one quarterback, or number two, the number two quarterback in your mind, the number three, and then the number three quarterback in your mind. If you disagree or agree with something that Diesel and I say when it comes to the top 10, with us being 10 weeks away from the NFL season, let us know. We want to hear from you. So we've had one texter already say that Lamar's number one and arguably can't be ranked. Who else offers QB1 and RB1 impact? So, Diesel, we can do this two ways. You and I can agree to put someone in a certain number, or you and I can give our top 10. How would you like to do it? I'll let you choose on this hump day.
Let's put them in a certain spot.
Okay.
And if we're ranking the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL right now, we'll start right there.
We can redo them.
No, okay.
I'm saying after we get 10, if we want to say,
yeah.
3 should be 4, we can
Sure.
adjust.
I'm going to put Lamar Jackson.
At 1?
No. Come on.
Dexter said it.
Come on. I'm shocked
Where are you
that
putting
this
Lamar?
texter doesn't have a Baltimore area code.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Lamar is probably the third best quarterback in the NFL.
Ooh. Okay, so
Third
here's
best, maybe fourth.
So let's do this.
But without a clear list in my mind, it's hard to say.
Here's the list. I've got the list below the 10, Diesel, just so you know. Let's do this. Let's give a pool that we're choosing from when it comes to number 1, 2, and 3, okay? So you've got Lamar Jackson, you've got Josh Allen, you've got Joe Burrow, right? Those are 3 that you put up near the top. You've got Patrick.
Near the top.
Yep, you get Patrick Mahomes. He's near the top. That's 4 near the top, right? From the NFC, you look at Bryce Young, you put him. I'm kidding. It's a joke. It's a joke. Some people may put Jordan Love near the top, not me. Let's see. Jalen Hurts near the top, right? Jaden Daniels somewhere near the top, not necessarily in the top. So let's take for number 1, let's take Diesel from the NFC. Let's put Jalen Hurts up near there. And then let's put Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. That's 5.
Okay.
If you and I want to decide on 1, are you okay? Are you okay putting Patrick Mahomes 1? Because I just feel like it's disrespectful not to.
Yeah. Okay. He's the best quarterback in the league.
So
Even though, people can call whatever they want into question, and that's fine. You can certainly make those arguments. But Patrick Mahomes is a phenomenal quarterback. He knows how to work the system, even to the point that it's annoying for fans that have to watch their team lose to the Chiefs.
Yeah.
But Patrick Mahomes right now is the absolute best at that.
Okay, so you and I will sing in unison when it comes to Patrick Mahomes. I think we'll agree on a lot of these. So Mahomes is off the board in terms of the top. That leaves Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. That leaves Jalen Hurts. That's 3. So we've got, let me make sure I'm not missing anybody. And Tolos, if I do, please let me know. We do make mistakes. We're human. We've got Lamar left in terms of the top. Lamar, Josh, Joe, Jalen. That's 4. So Lamar,
Yeah.
Lamar, Josh, Joe, and Jalen.
And we can't look at it as if rings are everything.
No, I
Because
agree with that.
if we said rings are everything, then Jalen Hurts has to go number 2. And I don't believe Jalen Hurts is the second best quarterback.
I'm
in the league.
I'm going Josh Allen at
You
2.
going Josh Allen at 2?
Me. That's just me.
And,
you
and
want to go
at
with
the
that,
same
or you
time,
want to go
at the same
somebody
time,
else?
results do have to matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, so
I'm with you. I can't put Lamar over Josh. I can't put Joe over Josh, and I can't put Jalen over Josh.
Okay, now 3. We've got in the top group, we have Lamar left, Joe left, and Jalen.
Okay, I think it's pretty clear it's Lamar.
That's what I was going to say. We're in unison. So we've got Lamar Jackson at 3. Now that leaves us Joe and Jalen. Do you put Joe 4, Jalen 5, or do you put Jalen 4, Joe 5?
I put Jalen
4. Yep. See,
Jalen 4, Joe
we're
5.
We're on the same page here. We're on the same page. So there's our top 5.
And you can't look specifically and exclusively at stats. You can't look exclusively at rings.
Yep.
You can't look exclusively at playoff
It's
wins.
true. It's true. There's so much that goes into it. And Tolos, we know there's a lot of texts coming in. We'll get to those texts in a second. After Diesel and I compile our list, we'll see what you think. We'll see. And again, we'll be open to some slight movement, but we've got our 5. Diesel and I 100% agree that it's Mahomes 1, Josh Allen 2, Lamar Jackson 3, Jalen Hurts 4, Joe Burrow 5. That leaves 6 through 10. And I think this, Diesel, is where you and I are going to start having some differences, right?
Right.
So let's do this. Of the list of quarterbacks that are on the rundown, I'm going to give a 6, you give a 6, but I want to say it on the count of 3. I'm not quite ready yet. I'm looking down. First of all, I'm going to look in the AFC. Lamar's gone. Josh is gone. Joe's gone. Cleveland has 46 quarterbacks on their roster to choose from, right? None are number 6 for me.
Well, it depends on if Shadur keeps getting speeding tickets. And then he won't be on the roster anymore.
It's terrible, but funny. I think I've got, let me look in the NFC to make sure real quick. I've got my 6, and it's not Bryce Young, just so you know. I think I've got my 6. Let me make sure. Not Russell, not Brock Purdy. All right, I've got my 6. Do you have your 6?
I do.
All right, on count of 3.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, Jaden Daniels.
I forgot mine.
I
forgot it.
You're just going to hang me out to dry.
I forgot it.
Come on.
I already forgot who I was going at 6. Let's try it again. I remember now. Ready? Let's try it again. You already know yours. I know that was a failure on my part. 1, 2, 3, C.J. Stroud. So I was looking at the rundown.
Whistle making fun of us.
Have you ever had one of those moments where you just completely go brain dead?
Why don't we try to sing Harold Happy Birthday again?
I know. I just completely went brain dead. I had it in my head, and then you asked for it, and I said, who was I going to say at 6? I had to literally scroll back up to find his name. C.J. Stroud.
Can you play the sound effect, the wrong answer sound effect? This is Cole's brain.
Yeah. It was. It was worse than that. It was like, what are we doing here? So I'm going CJ at 6. Here's where you and I have a difference. Yep. I'm going that in green. And then who'd you say?
I said Jaden Daniels.
I like that. I love Jaden Daniels. I really do. So you're putting Jaden Daniels at 6. I'm putting CJ Stroud at 6.
Yeah. I think the sky is the limit for Jaden Daniels.
Okay, I'm going at 7. Let's pick a 7. I actually have the name in my head this time. I promise. I've got it in my head. I'm not going to draw a blank. My 7, Diesel, you find a 7. Let me make sure that 7 is my official final answer. Mm-hmm. Let me make sure. Ooh, this is getting tough. I'm not going to lie to you. This is getting tough. Oh, boy. All right, I've got my 7. Do you have your 7?
I do.
Let me make sure.
Do you have it? Are you sure
I've got it.
Okay.
I've got it pulled up. I'm looking at it. Ready? You call it out.
1, 2, 3, Justin Herbert.
Wow. That was really good. How about us?
How about next time, I go high, you go low, we can harmonize.
All right. I have my 8 because I didn't put him earlier in the list. Tell me when you have your 8. And you gave Jaden Daniels, by the way, at 6.
I did.
We both went Justin Herbert at 7. We still have some really good candidates left, like Jordan Love, like Jared Goff, Dak. There's still some good candidates out there. But we do both like Justin Herbert a lot.
Yep.
I have my 8. I think so. Let me make sure. Let me make sure. Yeah, I've got my 8.
I'm ready.
Okay, you call it.
1, 2, 3.
Jaden Daniels. So I'm going Jaden Daniels here at 8. And you went Jordan Love. I like that. Mm-hmm. Jordan Love's got to be on my list too, right?
He's rising. He's
really
turning into a star. Slow development.
All right.
To turn into a star, but Jordan Love is getting there.
So you have Jordan Love at 8. I have Jaden Daniels at 8. You do not have C.J. Stroud on your list yet. We've got 9 and 10 left. Let's see who we don't have on the list real quick. I know we have a break coming up. We have not gotten Trevor Lawrence on the list. We don't have Geno Smith on the list, obviously. We don't have Tua on the list. We don't have Justin Fields, your boy, on the list.
My boy.
Kyler Murray, no Bryce, no Caleb Williams, no Dak, no Stafford, no Brock Purdy. Oh, my gosh, Brock Purdy. All right, I've got my 9 and 10 already in my head.
Do you want to give your 9 and 10?
Yeah, I'm going to go Dak Prescott at 9.
Okay.
I'm going Dak Prescott. I mean, are you surprised I didn't go Dak at 1? I mean, come on. Tell me I can't.
Because you have to maintain some level of credibility. I've got Jared Goff as my 9.
Okay. Jared Goff is Diesel's 9. Do you have your 10 yet? This is tough. Somebody's going to be left
10.
off. Oh, no.
My 10.
All right, so here's what we got left. We've got Baker left. We've got Brock Purdy left.
God.
We've got Russell Wilson left if he's still under the age of 50.
Is he still running laps on airplanes?
Did I put Jordan Love on my list or no?
You don't have him.
Oh, I got to go Jordan Love 10 then. I'm sorry. Sorry, Brock Purdy. I think Jordan Love's a better quarterback.
I'm going Matt Stafford at 10.
Okay. I don't hate that.
And then my wait list, call him 11, 12.
Yeah.
Dak and who have I missed? Dak and Baker.
T. Swizzle says, whoa. Y'all don't leave out Aaron. Aaron.
Is he playing this year? Do we know?
Has he quit
yet? Does he know?
Is he second string, third? I don't know. I told you yesterday. Aaron's at my top 3 in terms of, best ever, but he's not the best ever right now. So, to recap, we have Mahomes 1, Josh Allen 2, Lamar Jackson 3. We have Jalen Hurts at 4, Joe Burrow at 5. At 6, I have CJ, you have Jaden. At 7, we both have Herbert. At 8, I have Daniels, you have Love. At 9, I have Dak, you have Goff. At 10, I have Jordan Love, and you have Matt Stafford. Those are our top 10 quarterbacks with 10 weeks to go until NFL football starts. I don't think those are a bad lists. For spur of the moment, I think those are pretty good, Diesel.
Bubba Brooks gives his. He goes Patrick Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Herbert, Jackson, Stroud, Trevor Lawrence.
Whoa.
At 7. Jalen Hurts at 8. Aaron Rodgers at 9. And then Dak Prescott at 10. Bubba Brooks. It's too early in the day to be drinking. Slow it down. But we appreciate you texting in.
Yeah, a lot of texts on Geno Smith. From JD as well. A lot of texts, a lot of Tolos getting in on the text line. Obviously, some on the stream that we missed as well. So, a lot of fun there.
When we come back, some very quick, because we're not going to have a ton of time, news, notes, and other rumblings from the Carolina Panthers offseason. That's on the other side of the break. It's still crazy to me that last fall/last winter, I saw Hunter Renfrow at a local ski shop. I was just there dropping off my snowboard to get sharpened, to get the edges sharpened. My wife was looking at ski boots, and I walk up to the register to ask a question, and there's a guy next to me who looks familiar, and I can't place him. I'm like, God, this guy looks so familiar. The problem is he kind of looks like every other guy, right?
He does, yeah.
He kind of looked a little bit like Andrew Luck. If you can picture Hunter Renfrow, he kind of looks like Andrew Luck, which they all kind of look like every other just normal dude. Certainly didn't look like an NFL football player, and that's, well, because he wasn't at the moment. Hunter Renfrow, though, back playing football, back with the Carolina Panthers, and he says now, Cole, that he feels pretty good. He was talking in an interview recently about how his body feels going into this season. And he said that over his last 2 seasons playing for the Raiders, he didn't feel like himself, right? He didn't feel like he was in the best possible shape. He just didn't feel good playing football. And he was focusing more on getting his body right than he was the football side of things, like learning the routes, making sure you're precise. And, well, that's what leads to exiting the league, as it were. But this is the quote from Hunter Renfrow, quote, "Honestly, this is the best I've felt probably since 2021, by far. Really, the last 3 years I struggled with the Raiders, and last year I just struggled with fatigue. But this is by far the best I've felt since 2021. It's like anything. Rome wasn't built in a day. Just taking it day by day, stacking good days, and telling yourself, even though you don't feel great, that it will get better. Just keep pushing through, putting one step in front of the other kind of mentality. And I feel like I've done that, and every day I've felt better and better and better and better. I'm still not exactly 100% where I want to be, but I feel a lot better." I'm telling you, if he washes out of the NFL again or retires for good, he could be a motivational speaker, because these are all the things you see on those little posters with the cat holding onto the rope.
I don't know that Hunter Renfrow is going to be what a lot of Panther fans and Clemson fans in the area would love to see. And I know that may come across a little bit negative. There's so much love in this area for Hunter Renfrow because of what he did at Clemson and how pivotal he was in bringing Clemson a national championship, and the way that he played and carried himself for the program, the walk-on mentality, right? So many cool stories from Hunter Renfrow that people in this area absolutely love if you're a Clemson fan. I don't mean to be Debbie Downer. I don't mean to be negative. However, though, when you look at the Panthers, they're adding guys in the receiving room. You drafted a guy in the first round of the 2025 NFL draft. Not saying that Hunter Renfrow is going to come in and be a bust. However, I would say this. Much like the Arch Manning conversation we had at 3 o'clock, Diesel, let's kind of wait to see how this plays out with Hunter Renfrow. I'm not saying that it's just going to be a failure, but at the same time, there's a lot of guys on that roster that are going to be competing for snaps, and I'm just not so sure that Hunter Renfrow is going to be, the target that certain Clemson fans think that he should be.
Maybe the hope is that he becomes the new Adam Thielen. As Adam Thielen, 34 years old, is probably going to retire soon. Mm-hmm. We don't know for sure when he's going to go, but as he goes, maybe Hunter Renfrow steps in as that slot guy, right? That guy that just runs incredible routes and can be a great veteran presence for Bryce Young. I don't know. Maybe that's what he can be. Another note for you, Cole, and you tell me if this rubs you the wrong way. Bryce Young was videoed playing catch backstage at the Fanatics Fest with C.J. Stroud. Do we want Bryce and C.J. to be rivals?
No, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I think the more you can learn from a guy that was really, really good, the more you can be around people that are really, really good, the better you can be. I have no issue with it at all.
Plus, Bryce plays as a happy guy, and you don't necessarily want to see Bryce out there playing angry and playing tight because of it.
Yeah. All right. Is AAU to blame for Achilles tears? Wait until you hear the drastic increase. Diesel, the drastic increase of Achilles tears. The numbers have gone way up over the years. What's to blame? Is it shoes? Is it AAU? I'll tell you what Matt Barnes thinks and what one local high school basketball coach right here in the upstate thinks. Next. If you watched the NBA Finals, you saw another star in the NBA go down because of an Achilles. It's happening more and more. It's happening more, Diesel, than it ever used to happen. The rise of Achilles tears is just alarming in the United States when it comes to basketball, and why these Achilles tears are happening. That is where we are going in this very segment. Welcome into Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. JB on the YouTube stream commenting about these Achilles tears. He says, growing up, you only heard about them when I was a football player, right? I remember the first star NFL player that happened to was Marino. So that's where the conversation's going. I have some audio in this segment. I reached out to a friend of mine, Lane Fowler, who's the head basketball coach at Burns, who's been coaching 20-plus years, to get his thoughts on it. But Diesel, let's start with this audio and react to former NBA player Matt Barnes on where we are with these Achilles tears.
Why is all this happening? There was only 45 Achilles tears from 1990 to 2023. 8 Achilles tears alone in the 2025 season, and we've seen debates all over the place. We saw Cameron come out and say, I know I'm the last nigga to say stop being fashionable, but stop wearing these low-cut shoes and three-quarter cut shoes, please and thank you. And not only, then Easy Money Sniper, Kevin Durant, said, brother, this absolutely has nothing to do with the injury. I'm with KD. I don't think it has anything to do with the shoes. I think it's more the wear and tear. These kids are playing way too many specialized sports at a younger age. Like, I don't even think it's close how much they're playing compared to my era. I played 4 different sports in high school: football, baseball, basketball, track. I'd probably say the grassroots basketball development, if you're lucky enough to get to the league, will probably put 5 years on your body, and that's just a guesstimate. There's no scientific fact behind it. It's just someone who's been in this shit and seen it, someone who has kids in this space, and just seeing how many games kids play year round. I think it's way too much. And then once you get
Matt Barnes here, dropping a few words we can't put on the radio,
Choice
but
words,
yeah, choice words. But it's really interesting, Diesel. You have this audio of Matt Barnes, a former NBA player, bringing up these numbers, and the numbers are riveting. In the very beginning, those numbers, those statistics that he gave, Diesel, those are alarming. People are bringing up the shoes, the low-cut shoes. He brings up AAU. What's your reaction to that?
I 100% agree.
On the AAU?
On the AAU, and just to the generalized point of over-specialization, overwork, and it's because, number one, there's a lot of parents who are using their kids as their retirement plan. You find out that your kid has a proclivity or a skill, and then you realize, oh, well, they can make a career out of that. They can make money off of that. And look, far be it for me to tell anyone to not push their kids to try to go be great at something.
Yeah.
But, there's a lot of evidence and there's a lot of statistics from across sports, not even just specifically about Achilles tears in basketball, but brain injuries are up, Tommy Johns are up, knee injuries are up. Like, it's just happening because we're having kids play a ton of ball in high school. They're playing travel ball, then they go off and play AAU ball or college ball or whatever it may be. And they're spending all the time specializing on one sport. So it's not shocking that it's happening.
It's not shocking. And I want to hear the thoughts of you Tolos out there as well at 844-FAN-PHONE. That's FANFONE, 844-326-3663. Again, I did reach out to a local basketball coach because I wanted to hear his thoughts on it from somebody who coaches. But Diesel, it's a very hot topic right now, a very hot topic. Dan Patrick earlier today had Dr. Mark Adickies on. He is an orthopedic surgeon, and they were talking about this very issue. Here's what he said.
Well, I mean, the step back is not that much force, right? I mean, you've seen running backs tear as they go to step back to accelerate forward, But I mean, you also see Achilles tears where guys are going to cut. And so do I think the step back is more force than someone running full speed and going to cut and push off the leg? Nah, I mean, I really don't think so. I don't think it's just because guys are doing more step backs that you're going to see more Achilles tears. The other thing is, it used to be that you didn't even worry about an Achilles tear in an athlete that wasn't around or beyond 30 years of age. And now you're seeing these 22, 25-year-olds get hurt. It really is crazy.
Okay. You know, Diesel, when it comes down to the NBA in the finals, we talk a lot about ratings. There's been way too many stars over the last few years that aren't playing in the finals, and that's a problem.
Yeah, it is. You want to see the stars out there, and part of it is, you know, for lack of a better term, load management, putting a ton of minutes on the stars, and that is cumulative. It all adds up over time.
It does. And look, everybody has their different reasonings, right? Their different reasons as to why more and more of these are happening, because as Matt Barnes gave those numbers, Diesel, in that audio that we played to start the segment, you really just can't explain how these numbers from the 50s and 60s and 70s to now, they've not only skyrocketed, they're tripling, quadrupling, and that's alarming.
I would need to know, and maybe our next guest can shed some light on this. Welcome into the show, Lane Fowler, Burns head boys basketball coach. You hear him on the football broadcasts with Cole. Coach, talk about the weight room side of things. I don't know if Burns has strength coaches and strength directors, or if that responsibility falls on you. How do like, for preventative sake, do you have guys doing workouts around the knee, for example, for if we're talking about different tears there, to try to prevent injuries? Or are most weightlifting programs really just set to be what's most advantageous and explosive for a movement or a sport?
Well, first off, what's up, guys? I hope you're doing well. To answer that question, in my 27 years, I've had three great strength coaches: Mike Schrock for 20 years, Keith Caton for a couple of years, and now Dalton Simons does a phenomenal job. They're very tailored and specific. They're very smart guys to start with, but they make sure that the whole body is taken care of. You know, they're making sure quad muscles are good and hamstrings for the, you know, and the knee, the total knee, the ACL, MCL. So they tailor our lifts for all that. They obviously, you know, work with our training staff. We've really grown our training staff through the years. I can't say every high school has that. We're very fortunate at Burns. Most high schools do have a good strength coach and training staff, but you know, just alluding to the whole thing with the Achilles tendon, unfortunately, when I finished playing college basketball, I ruptured my Achilles tendon. And, you know, it's a very tough injury to come back from. I do think listening to Matt Barnes, you know, the whole thing with him is – hold on one second, guys.
You're good. And by the way, he's talking about Matt Barnes, the former NBA player. We had that audio earlier. We kind of had to cut it short because there were some like these, what'd you say, choice words?
Choice words.
I like that, choice words. But there were some choice words there. But Matt Barnes, you know, brought up Lane. He brought the low-cut shoes. Kevin Durant shot that down. But Matt Barnes was really talking about AAU being the reason for it.
Yeah, and again, I'm a big proponent for AAU. I've coached in it. I played in it many years ago. I do think Matt Barnes makes some very valid points, whether it's sports-specific. He talked about he played 4 sports in high school. I've seen this on numerous medical reports where, I mean, you can go to baseball, you know, from guys with Tommy John and things like that. But if you're not careful, the body is only meant for so much, and there is wear and tear involved. I can't say that's, you know, again, I think there's multiple ingredients into this meal. I don't think it's one or two things. I do think all of it probably adds up. You know, you've seen it with quarterbacks. I was a big Dan Marino fan back in the day, and he took one step and blew his. Aaron Rodgers' first series 2 years ago. I do think, you know, I know for a fact for me, mine ruptured. They had to take like an old TV antenna and roll it back up my calf. And then when I ended up having the surgery, they end up. I mean, when I say they knit that thing together, it's tight as a rope. And I'll be 50 this year. We still play 2 or 3 mornings a week, but I spend 10 more minutes per morning of just stretching my Achilles. And I do think some of those guys, and again, the Halliburton, Kevin Durant, I don't think there's any doubt the calf injuries for both of them at their times led into the Achilles tendon. And I was one of those last week when everybody was ripping Carlisle and Halliburton about playing. I was totally against that in the sense of, you know, it's the athlete that has to be with that medical staff and training staff. They have to, you know, present the best scenario possible. Of course, he may not ever play in another NBA Finals regardless of this injury. He might play in 5 more, but he wanted to win that title. Yeah. So at that point, as a coach, you know, definitely not an NBA coach, you consult with your player, and if that's what he wants to do, then I was on board with him playing. Now, you know, hindsight, looking now to where he's at, that's a tough injury to come back from. I mean, for me, it was a full 6 months of, you know, not only after the surgery, you're immobilized for a little stretch, then you're in the boot. And again, they'll have, you know, the best doctors and trainers and orthopedics known to man working with him. But it's one of those deals where they'll definitely be careful bringing him back. But it's such a terrible injury. I hated it for him. I do think, you know, again, people can say what they want. I think he was going to have a really special night. You know, with the 3 threes in the first 7 minutes, I think that was going to be one of the best game 7s that we've seen. And, you know, we haven't seen a lot in the last 20 years, but I think it was going to be a classic. And it just, there's so many factors but I've seen 2 officials with my own 2 eyes rupture their Achilles. And I had a good friend, the head coach at Malden, Adam McClain, rupture his. And what they tell these guys now, if you're 40 and over, they don't want to have surgery.
Lane, let me get your thoughts on something that a physical therapist said from the University of Delaware. He compared today's calf injuries to the kind of hamstring strain seen 5 to 10 years ago and pointed out that as athletes have prioritized upper leg strength, their lower legs need to have the strength to keep up. He says at this point we need to start thinking about the calf and Achilles in the same way. Do we have enough strength to be able to tolerate the sport that we're doing? The lower leg is lagging behind some of the other things that we do. Do you agree with that?
Well, he's an expert, and I usually tend to, you know, go with the experts. I would say he's definitely on to something right there, and he's probably, you know, done a lot of research with it. And yes, just off you saying that, I would think that's part of this. It's probably no different, man, when you go to the gym. You see these guys pumping and, you know, whatever. They want to get their chest right, but they're not doing much for the legs, and it makes me laugh. And so it's one of those deals where, yeah, sport-specific, basketball, I mean, there's so much running and there's so much, you know, people don't realize lateral quickness, getting off your feet, the better players, rebounders through the years, multiple get off their feet, a lot of jumps real quick. So all that plays into it. I don't necessarily go with the low cut shoes. I don't really, again, that's just me speculating. I'm not sure that that's part of it, but I think you see it in more sports now. And again, sport specific, you know, the Achilles is a big deal, but I think, Cole, you're right. I think some of that with the Achilles, with the calves, ankle mobility, all that plays a factor into this.
Coach, you know, just like with anything, when there's statistics and data out there that say one thing, somebody else will commission a study that says the other thing. But, you know, with the just rapid increase of the amount of ball that kids play, whether it's AAU, travel baseball, whatever it may be, do you think some of this information could cause those leagues to maybe try to reduce or shrink a little bit? Does it fall on parents to make these decisions? Or, you know, ultimately, is it going to come down to it's a risk they're willing to take?
Well, I think it's all the above. I 100% do not think they're going to slow down at all. I've been full tilt in the baseball before, the basketball. At the end of the day, it's bottom dollar. They're going to have as many tournaments, as many events. I mean, I've been this year alone. I've been to College Station, Texas. I've been to Omaha, Nebraska. Now, this is my youngest son playing on a pretty big circuit where there's college coaches, but I've also played with him when he was Little League baseball and just above. And, we're going all over the state of South Carolina playing. So they're going to continue travel ball. And the parents that have probably played, I like to say the ones that have been there before, they're going to probably look at some of this. No different than some with football with CTE. You've seen numbers drastically go down in the last 3 or 4 years. I don't care what anybody says, in high school and middle, even in our youth leagues, it's gone down a lot. So some of that's the parents talking to the kid. But when kids want to play, and I've got 3, and my daughter plays travel volleyball, and they love to play, you try to, educate them, but you try to make sure it's not just over the top wear and tear. But they want to be out there, and that's hard as a parent not to allow them. You do, again, you're their parent, so you better help them make the right decisions. But I definitely think that's part of it. I don't think that's going to slow down. I do think if it does slow down, that's more on the parent and the child moving forward.
Lane, you're the best. Appreciate your 2 cents, man.
Man, thank y'all. Love what you do. Y'all be good.
Lane Fowler, the head boys basketball coach. It's a wild topic, Diesel, because when you look back, to JB's point earlier on the stream, you didn't realize that Achilles tears weren't happening, and now they are.
And it's hard to get people to understand that this is a cumulative injury that builds up over time. It's like telling somebody who picks up their first cigarette, like, if you keep doing this every day, 3, 4, 5, 10 cigarettes a day, 20 years from now, you're going to have issues with your lungs. Well, people will say, well, I don't see it right now, so I'm not going to heed those warnings. And when it sounds like something that should be healthy, going out and playing sports and being active, it's hard to get people to understand that this does have cumulative issues, and it can and will cause problems down the road.
John, by the way, John, I know we had to run you on that phone call you wanted to get in. If you want to call back after this next guest, we will definitely get you on the air.
Speaking of next guest, in the very next segment, Scott Hamilton from the Post and Courier going to join us right here on the Fan Upstate. I've never wanted to disagree with a guest less than Scott Hamilton right now because he's got Old Glory behind his head. You can't argue somebody who puts the American flag behind him.
True.
Not less. Turns it the right way because most people don't have a clue what they're doing where that's concerned. If you're not watching the stream, you don't know what we're talking about. But welcome
should be
into the
watching
show.
the stream, though.
Scott Hamilton of the Post and Courier joins us right here on the Fan Upstate Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Welcome to the show, Scott. Let's start right with a big question about the Clemson Tigers. I made a bold prediction yesterday that this would be Garrett Riley's last season as Clemson's OC. Not that he would get fired, but that he would have a great year with Cade, may win a championship, may put him, as a finalist for the Heisman, and then he rides off to glory and maybe takes a head coaching job somewhere else. Walk me through what you think happens with Garrett Riley at the end of the 2025 season.
That's a big swing. Holy cow. Wow.
I said bold.
That's a midsummer swing. Okay. Where does he go though? There's only a finite amount of opportunities, and you don't leave for just any job. You don't leave for a group of 5 job. Where does he go? I think that would be the biggest factor of all this. Now, if Clemson wins the national title, yeah, I think we start seeing some places open up that might otherwise have said, you know what, we're going to stay put for a year with what we have. But man, that's a big swing. I haven't even thought of that.
Well, I lied, Scott. I am going to push back on you right out of the gate. Are we so far to the point where a head coaching job at a G5 school is something to look down your nose at? Like, that's not good enough for Garrett Riley? If he gets his first head coaching opportunity, even if it's at a good G5 program?
Well, it'd probably be a pay cut, number
yeah.
one. Number two, it'll be more work because you have to go recruit and do all this, that, and the other to a higher degree than you do simply being the OC and closing deals, which is probably what he is at Clemson. He's a closer. They bring guys in and he says, hey, this is how you'll fit in the offense, yada, yada, yada. Okay, here, go back to the guy who's recruiting you. I have to think it works like that. I think he's almost like a Chip Kelly type situation. Chip Kelly left being the head coach at UCLA to be the OC at Ohio State. Gus Malzahn decided it was better to be the OC at Florida State, God love his little heart, than to be at Central Florida, which is not a bad gig. That's a good it's Power 4 now, I guess, Big 12, but you get my point. Sure. I wouldn't leave being the OC at Clemson to go be the head coach at, say, Tulane or somewhere. Put it that way.
Scott Hamilton, Post and Courier, joining us right here on the Fan Upstate, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, 97.7 FM in Greenville on the free Odyssey app. As Diesel mentioned, you can also watch the show as 124 Tolos are doing on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Scott, before we get into your article about athletic fees that you just wrote and just published a few days ago, I want to ask you about that. But Diesel came out swinging, so I'll come out swinging as well. It's hot in the great state of South Carolina this week. I don't know if you've noticed that yet or not. But since Diesel gave you a bold take, I'm going to rehash a bold take that I had on the show about a month ago, that in the summer months like this, when it's miserably hot, the last thing that I want to eat in the summer months is ice cream. It's a mess. It gets on your hands, and then you have a bunch of heavy milk sitting on your stomach. I got a lot of pushback from Diesel and our audience about that. Am I right or am I wrong on that?
I'm with you.
You like that?
You 100%. Well, I think of Ron Burgundy walking. I think about Ron Burgundy going up the street, drinking milk out of the carton. Oh, it's so hot. Oh, it's the same thing. It's a dairy product. It sits heavy on your stomach. It just, no, man. No, summertime is a clear beverage type,
go.
Or something you can see through. You can see through a beer to a large degree, a lighter beer. You can see through the lemonade, water, of course, Gatorade, so on and so forth. But anything, not milk, man.
I'm with. Okay, Scott. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Scott's even more now.
Are we so far beyond our childhood loves that we won't have ice cream on a hot summer day?
It's too hot for that.
I was in downtown Simpsonville last weekend, and I got a vanilla soft serve dipped in chocolate, sitting outside. It was hot. It was a little drippy, but it was delicious. So are we going to take that away from people?
Yeah, it's too
Okay.
hot.
Yeah, but that kind of hot last week ain't this seventh circle of hell hot we're in right now.
That's
I mean,
true.
this is it's a different breed of cat. But let's throw this out there. Hot day. Okay, no, we're going to position it like this. You're at a baseball game. We'll say you're at a baseball game in Greenville. Love that place.
Or
You're at
the new Spartan Burgers stadium. How
Even
about that,
better.
Scott?
You're there. You're sitting there, and you have an option. Do you get soft serve ice cream, or do you get a snow cone?
Snow cone, frozen lemonade. I'm with you on that. 100%.
What's wrong with doing both, Scott?
No. Oh God.
Then you're sick. For
Not
sure.
at the same time, not mixed together.
You're like my kid when he would get 2 boxes of Nerds at the movies and we're halfway through Green Lantern and he's like, Dad, we got to go. And I'm like, oh, really? So he made me watch Green Lantern twice, that god-awful movie, because he got sick the first time because he was putting Nerds 2 boxes at a time.
Hey, Scott, you wrote an article about athletic fees rising. The title was USC Clemson fees prove they realize their most valuable asset, the athletics department. For someone that hasn't read this article yet on the Post and Courier website, which, by the way, you should, take us through that, Scott.
Oh, man. My first reaction, and again, I apologize for my voice, guys. I've been a little under the weather lately. Summertime sickness is like drinking a gallon of milk out in the heat. It's awful. When I first hear about fees, your initial reaction is, wow, I can't believe they're going to have to charge students to pay for the house settlement and the revenue share and all that. But this isn't like that. This isn't that. This is basically getting a fee like you would get to build a library that you're not going to attend, or a classroom on the other side of campus that you're never going to go in, but you still pay a fee to it. And this money is they go into general funds to be used for everything but house settlement related items. It's not going towards revenue sharing. It's not going towards NIL or to fund scholarships. It's going to improve game day experiences for the students, specifically, at least in the case of South Carolina. And Clemson as well, because they don't want to have to start charging an arm and a leg for kids to go to games and to events. So it's basically to offset the costs that come with putting on big time sports events. And I say it's the biggest asset each university has, because let's face it, we don't tune in on Saturday to watch Cornell and Brown have a debate, but we tune in on Saturday, we watch Clemson and South Carolina play football. That's just how it is. And it used to be the other way around. The athletics were supplemental to the university, but now the university has almost become supplemental to athletics, because it's athletics that's bringing people to campus. It's athletics that's drawing attention to the community, and it's athletics that's bringing the money in to help keep the academic side going, because the academic world right now is more competitive than ever, thanks to the proliferation of online courses, startup universities, and simply the fact that a lot of people don't really gauge or value a college degree the way we used to. You have to really work to recruit those kids to come in and go to school.
With all due respect to the debate team and the mathletes, Scott, we should be putting up stands for those competitions as well. But, you look at student fees, and I don't know exactly how old this information is, but Clemson student fees, I think this year were $300 a year, so $150 a semester. At South Carolina, is about $475 per semester. You know as well as I do, with inflation, things just continue to go up. So what's to say that 2 years from now they don't say, okay, well, let's tack another $50 a student on that? And if you're talking about a big university, 25, 30, 40,000 students at some places, $50 a pop, that's a lot of money, right?
Well, it is a lot of money.
What's to say, the year after that, they don't raise it another $50, and then another year after that, another $50. In your mind, should there be some form of a cap, and should the student body actually have a voice in saying enough is enough? Here's a prime example. I went to App State public school. We were one of 2 schools in the state of North Carolina that had the student body had to vote on whether or not they could change books. And we got to rent our books from the university bookstore, and the student body had to say, okay, it's okay for you to change our books and charge us for these things. Should students have a voice in what they do and don't pay for?
Absolutely. And I have to wonder, I have to wonder if the student body to some degree had a say in all this. By the way, the Clemson is yet to start charging. That starts this fall with this semester. They decided it last October, and it goes into effect this fall. South Carolina already had $172 mandatory fee. They tack on another $300, so it's $472 now. But I agree with you. But the flip side is this. I mean, how can you put any kind of cap on it? It's going to happen. It's going to go up, but everything's going to go up. They're going to bring in more money. Tuition's going to go up. Everything's going to go up. Tuition now is much more than it used to be. And I don't love it, but when I look at the big picture, if this is going to make things more relevant, or rather make things better and keep those schools relevant, then I'm all for it. And when you juxtapose it to, say, a James Madison University is charging $2,500. That's how much their student fees are just for athletics. Just for athletics. Here, this blew me away. I couldn't believe it. And it's part of a strategic plan that they started about 15 years ago. And you could actually chart the rise of James Madison University athletics with when they began charging these fees. Their athletic department budget is $68 million. $53 million of that comes from student fees.
Wow.
So basically the student body is subsidizing the entire athletic department. That's a wild proposition.
It really is. Those the numbers, the way you put it out there, it makes it larger, than we sometimes realize. Scott Hamilton, Post and Courier, joining us right here on the Fan Upstate. Always appreciate you taking time to hop on with us, Scott. Our audience gives good feedback when we do bring you on, so hope we can continue to do that.
People listen.
Believe it or not. Yeah, believe it or not.
Come on. They stick around. I figured they would take a break.
No, well, that's what they say. That don't jinx that, right? Don't jinx that. Scott, what were your thoughts on a massive disappointment for Tommy Fleetwood over the weekend? Just unable to get it done. I think your reaction right there tells the whole story.
God love his little heart. I mean, what got me, and I like looking at Diesel there. He's so professional. That's an App State guy if there ever was one. I spent a lot of time in Boone, by the way.
Nobody's ever called me professional before. They've called me a lot of things, but not.
I love Boone, brother. Don't even get me started. I will die on a hill for Boone. We got to talk about Boone sometime. But Tommy Fleetwood, I saw a video yesterday. It was a different point of view, POV, as the kids would say.
Yeah.
From behind him, as Keegan Bradley is getting ready to make his putt. And Tommy literally covering his eyes. And then he can hear the roars and he puts his hands down. And man, he can feel like his soul came out of his teeth on that. I mean, it was I'm heartbroken for the guy. Look, Tommy Fleetwood is a multimillionaire many times over. Tommy Fleetwood is a successful golfer. He's went all around the world. Tommy Fleetwood has done everything you can do as a professional athlete in the world of golf, except win something in America or a major that affiliated with the PGA Tour. I want him to win. He seems like I read this, and we'll put a pin on it after this. There's some guys on tour you want to have a beer with. Some guys you don't even want to be around. Tommy Fleetwood is a guy you want to have 2 beers with. God love his heart, man. I feel bad for him.
So do you think Tommy's skipping out this weekend on the Rocket Classic to get his mind right or to get his game right?
Both. And he's still got Ryder Cup aspirations. I mean, it's a Ryder Cup here. Open Championship is coming up. I mean, that means more to him than we can probably imagine, being a European. I don't think it's a situation like we discussed a couple of weeks ago, which seems to have more credence now the further down the road we go with regards to Rory. Yep. Where does he go from here? This is more a situation of Tommy's just got to reset and say there'll be more opportunities. I mean, he's only 34, 33. He was a rookie in 2017, I think. I mean, he's still in the early stages of his career, but man, when you've got one, you got to seize it. You got to seize it. I'm just wondering what Colin Montgomery thinks. Colin Montgomery, all those years he played and he never won. I mean, he didn't compete on the PGA Tour as often as Tommy, but he never won when he did compete. He never won a major. I wonder if Colin Montgomery's reached out in any capacity and said, dude, I feel you, bro. I feel you.
I just wonder, Scott, if that's something you think about. Like, let's say, for example, he played 8-10 more years and retired and never got that win. When you sit down at the end of the day, to your point about being a multimillionaire, right? He'll have more money than he'll ever, be concerned about having. But 42 plus top 10 finishes, and that's the most ever without a win on the tour. Like, is that something you think he'll think about after retirement?
I don't know. I mean, it has to be to a degree.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it like this, though. That's kind of his deal. It's almost like Phil Mickelson with the 6 runners-ups in the U.S. Open. Different, but the same. Different, but the same. How do you compartmentalize all the success you had, but there's that one thing missing? I know Phil's is a major, but that's 6 instances. This is 42 times on the PGA Tour. He was on the top 10, and he couldn't close. And this one, totally his fault. I mean, you could see him throw up all over himself as soon as he teed off on 18. I'm like, this dude's cooked. He's cooked.
Yeah, I think his career earnings somewhere around $25 million. How much of that do you have to spend to fill the hole in your heart, which is I never won a PGA Tour event? There's some big changes coming to golf as well with Monahan stepping down and Brian Rolop from the NFL coming in.
Yeah.
I just wonder, and it goes from a commissioner role to a CEO role. I don't know if you want to call that semantics or place any kind of significance on that. But is Brian Rolop, who's going to make this a much more NFL style of broadcast and sport, is he going to ruin everything?
I don't think so. And think about it. I mean, he left a really good job to go now run the PGA Tour. But you know what? You nailed it. You nailed it. He's not going to be a commissioner. It's going to be more of a CEO type deal. And that shows you how this thing has evolved with the proliferation of live golf, with the existence of live golf. The golfers now are the ones in charge. They're running it. And this guy's basically going to be working at their behest instead of, and this is again a presumption, maybe he does have unilateral power, maybe he doesn't, but it seems he won't be the be all end all that a commissioner normally is, who can make decisions, sweeping decisions, and it is what it is. This guy's going to be sitting at the end of a boardroom like, Bruce Wayne in The Dark Knight with all the board stakeholders of Wayne Enterprises, and they're going to be telling him what to do. Then he has to decide however they vote. I think that says a lot. And I'm okay with it. I'm good with the changes in golf. Look, as much as we criticize live golf, and we can sit here and talk about the dirtiness of the money and this, that, and the other, live golf actually improved the PGA Tour, man. It did. I mean, look, we're watching a tournament the week after the U.S. Open that a lot of guys would have normally skipped. And it was out of sight, man. The field was great. The signature events are great. The people in Hilton Head, ask them how their tournament is doing. They were always doing okay, but now they're doing really good because their signature event that would not exist if live golf hadn't become a thing.
Scott, before we let you go, 3 weeks from today, we will be getting ready for the Open Championship in Northern Ireland. 3 weeks out, what is the one thing about this last major of the year that captures your mind, your attention the most?
Oh, early morning, man. I got my whole day at like 1 o'clock. I'm like, it's not like there's football that afternoon or anything, but it's still cool to be able to get up on Saturday and not be relegated to only Marty and McGee. I mean, I got other things to watch on TV now. I'm good. No, I'm like, yeah, let's do this. This is awesome. And that's like when Tiger won the Masters in 2019, that added another layer of just uniqueness to that because he teed off at like 8:30 that morning because of the rain. They wanted to get it in before the rain came. I love early morning golf, but on the flip side, I also like golf in Hawaii in January where I can watch it at 9 o'clock at night. So.
Well, Scott, to belabor your Dark Knight reference, I dare anybody to walk up behind you, put their hand on your shoulder, and ask, do you feel in charge, especially with that American flag behind you?
Yes. I would normally do my Bane impersonation, but I'm a little
Do you
foggy.
feel in charge?
Scott, you're the best, man. Always appreciate you.
Hey, I appreciate it, fellas. Y'all come on down and see me.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks,
Scott Hamilton, Post and Courier. Always a pleasure having Scott on. Diesel, there is a proposal to allow college athletes, coaches, and staffers to do something that's never been allowed before? We'll tell you next. Well, wait till you hear this, Diesel. Wait till you hear this, Tolos. College students, college athletes in particular, coaches and staffers, in the past, Diesel, have not been allowed to do one thing in particular. That one thing is wager. However, there is a proposal. Pat Forty put this on Twitter earlier today, that there is a proposal to allow college athletes, coaches, and staffers to wager on pro sports without penalty. Is expected to be voted on this week by the NCAA Division I Council, a key step to becoming reality. But there is opposition. Pat Forty says, Diesel, it's no slam dunk. Your reaction?
This is a terrible idea. It's a terrible idea. So I know what they're thinking here. The basic logic is that if we let college kids bet on pro sports, they won't want to bet on college sports. Like we give them an outlet, right? We give them something to do because they want to bet. We let them bet on this thing, but not on this thing. Do you really think they're not going to bet on college sports? Do we really think, like, one of my favorite movies of all time is called The Devil's Advocate. If everybody's seen it, great movie. Al Pacino. In that movie, there's a scene where he plays the devil, by the way. He says, we tell people, look, but don't touch. Touch, but don't taste. Taste, but don't enjoy. So we keep allowing people to take a little step, but a little step, but a little step, and then you end up somewhere way different from where you originally started.
Yeah.
Slippery slope.
I think it is a slippery slope. I'm very surprised by this, number one. Number two, I don't think it'll get passed. So the NCAA leaders could advance this new legislation, Diesel. And again, it's significantly changing the permissible sports wagering landscape in college. I wonder, I heard your reasoning. I wonder in my mind when I hear this, how much of this has to do with the fact that these aren't student athletes anymore. They're, let's call it like it is, they're paid employees. They're not employees yet. They're officially not employees yet, but that's what they are.
Well, the problem isn't with the student part. It's with the athlete part. They don't care if Lenore Sellers places a bet on who's going to win the Nobel Prize this year. They care about Lenore Sellers placing a bet on what's going to happen in next week's Alabama game.
Yeah, but it's been targeted towards student athletes because a regular student can gamble, but student athletes can't. So that's what I'm saying. Student athletes before could not gamble. Now they maybe can. How much of that, in my mind, has to do with the fact that they're truly not student athletes anymore, that they're becoming, like we said, we're not there yet, but they are closer today to employees than they ever have been. I don't think it gets passed. There's pushback. Pat Forty said it's no slam dunk.
Sure.
But boy, is it interesting.
I mean, think about it this way. If it says, okay, you're a college football player, you can bet on the NFL. You can bet on Major League Baseball. You can bet on NBA. Heck, we'll even let you bet on college basketball because you're a football player. Okay, well, we'll let you bet on the Big Ten because you play in the SEC. Like, that's how it starts. And then ultimately we go to total legalization.
So just let them gamble.
Let them gamble.
Let them do it.
Yeah, well, you can't let them do that because that's where it goes. And then we're in a place where athletes can affect the outcomes of games that they have intimate knowledge of or are actively participating in. When we come back, Cole, we got a lot of text messages that have come in at 844-326-3663, the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. We're going to catch up on some of those, some of what you Tolos are saying, and we'll play a condensed version, a shortened version of the game that is sweeping the nation for better or for worse. That's coming up. Tolos, you guys have surely been mouthing off over the last hour and a half or so on the text line, and we love you for it. 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663, the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. Let's go back and see what some of you guys have been saying, because, when we get headlong into a topic with a great guest like Scott Hamilton, it's hard to go back and catch every single one of these text
We've been
messages.
busy.
Yeah,
Forgive
we have.
us.
Who is this? Let's see. JD says, Diesel, if offensive coordinators don't take G5 jobs, what does that say about Dowell Loggins taking the App State job? Interesting question. So we were talking about this with Scott Hamilton, about Garrett Riley and his future. If he has a great season and everything he wants comes to fruition, what happens with Garrett after that? Could Garrett see like a big-time Power 5 offer? Yeah, he could. And I'm just thinking of the type of school that is probably going to be looking for a head coach at the end of the year, like a mid-level Big 12 school. He has some history in the Big 12. Let's say Texas Tech came calling. He spent time at TCU. What if, and not to say that they are looking, but what if West Virginia came calling? What if one of those types of schools came calling? Certainly he would probably want to take a good hard look at that opportunity, but Scott even brought up a school like Tulane. Tulane's been really good over the last couple of years. Why not take a job like
I don't
Tulane?
think he'd take Tulane.
And things have certainly changed, right? It used to be there was a sort of an order of operations of how you ascended from being a coordinator to becoming a head coach of a big school. And usually you were a coordinator at a big school, and then you cut your teeth as a head coach at a G5 school, and then you got that opportunity as a P5 head coach. But that's not the way we do things anymore, Cole. And I honestly think that's a bad thing. Yeah. I think you need that head coaching experience when there's not a overwhelming amount of pressure on you. I mean, are you telling me that the lessons that Billy Napier learned at Louisiana haven't helped him taking the job at Florida? I mean, I know he struggled his first couple of years there, but the lessons are invaluable.
Yeah. Want to get to this text from the 803. He says, I live down the street from a guy on the PGA Tour here in Greenville. He's only had 10 finishes in the top 20 and only won one tour event in 7 years. He only plans on playing a few more years because you make more money finishing in the top 20 in 10 tournaments than you do winning one and missing the cut in 8. The sport needs the guys that consistently push the ones with the ability to be great, and I have a ton of respect for the guys that keep fighting. Good text there from the 803. I like that. I don't know exactly who the golfer is, but good stuff there.
Well, I mean, to his point, you can make one heck of a living.
Yeah.
Never winning a PGA event. Look at Tommy Fleetwood. Career earnings, $25 million, and he only went pro like 8 years ago. I know that it hurts his ego, and it probably hurts his psyche, his soul, whatever you want to call it, but $25 million can make you feel a lot better about it.
I'm telling you. You kidding me? 25? Yeah, who cares about that stupid little win? $25 million, I'll take it. Right. 488 says, let's introduce gambling to college athletes before they go pro and then expect them to drop it once they go pro. Gambling is addictive. Dumb idea. Yeah, don't say, Texas.
Yeah.
How about that?
I mean, look, there are jobs that you may take in this world that don't allow you to do certain things. And the question is, are you going to take those jobs or not because they may be lucrative? Think about the guy that runs the crane that moves a heavy object from one part of a port to another part of a port. We don't want that guy smoking weed. The job description says very clearly you cannot have these things in your these substances in your system if you want to take this job. It's a very well-paying job, but you cannot have these things in your system. Why are you taking shots
at Terry?
Terry?
Terry's listening and thinking, man, how does he know?
I'm just saying.
Now HR is going to call Terry into a meeting because of you.
You know full well that you can't do those things. If you want to be an athlete and you want to play college sports and go pro, you know one of the things you cannot do is gamble.
Yeah, sorry, by the way, Tolos. I had to put my hand all the way to the camera for those watching on the stream, 163 of you. The struggle today, Diesel, has been I can't tell if my camera's blurry because my eyes were dilated this morning at like 11 o'clock and everything's blurry. So maybe the camera's not blurry and I'm just thinking it looks blurry, but oh my gosh, getting your eyes dilated is the worst.
I haven't had it done yet.
You can't even see your phone.
Oh.
You can't even, it's all blurry for like 2 hours after. It's horrible.
They let you drive out of there?
Yeah, like long.
Oh,
like,
that's smart.
Well, looking out a long ways at stuff is no problem. Like driving's no problem, but it's up close. If you look at something up close at your phone, you can't see it. I don't know. I didn't realize until today how bad getting your eye. I mean, I think it's worse than pregnancy. It's rough. I couldn't see my phone.
That's like telling a parent that you have a dog. You've had a dog, and raising a dog is the same as raising a kid.
I'm telling you, man.
You're going to start a fight.
I couldn't see for 2 hours on my phone. You got 2 hours while looking at your phone. You know how hard that was?
I said earlier we should let athletes gamble on who's going to win the next Nobel Prize. JD says, let's introduce gambling to college athletes. Here's an idea. Instead of letting them bet on sports, let them gamble on the student part. I got 100-to-1 odds that so-and-so fails their chemistry exam.
Speaking of JD, 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663. JD wants to chime in on the conversation. What's up, JD?
Hey, what's good, gentlemen? Thank you for taking my call.
Yeah.
Diesel, I want to hear your reaction to that text you just sent because that was one of the things I was going to touch on there, and then I had one other question about gambling.
The text that I just sent, what do you mean?
The one you just read about if we're going to let them gamble, let's gamble on students. Hey, man, what do you think about Josh over here? You think he's going to fail the exam next week?
Here's the thing,
let him
JD.
gamble on that. Don't let them gamble on sports.
We can't let them gamble. We can't let them gamble on whether or not their teammates are going to fail their exams because they have the intimate knowledge of whether their teammates are studying, whether they're smart or dumb as a rock. I mean, that's too much knowledge. That's like insider trading for gambling.
That is true. Cole, what do you think about it?
I think it's all a terrible idea, and I don't think it'll get approved. Like Diesel said, I think I'm with him. You introduce it, it is a very slippery slope. I think gambling is a horrible thing. I really do. I mean, I'm not dead. No, I do think it is a horrible. If you have an addictive personality, gambling's a horrible thing. It can be. Not everybody knows how to be careful with it. So I do think it's horrible. People have lost their entire lives, Diesel, and retirements and.
P.S. I gave up sports gambling after my endorsement with Underdog was over, Cole, and I haven't put a single dollar back in that app since.
Well, you see, you don't have a problem.
I don't. What was the second thing you wanted to talk about, JD?
Well, that was going to be gambling and all of that. That was going to be my next question. And yes, gambling, it has always had this negative stigma around it. It's always been thought of as this bad thing. I mean, we've seen Pete Rose being banned from baseball. It was not legal for the better part of, I don't know how long, 50 years, a century, whatever. It's gambling is frowned upon.
Yeah.
But now we're seeing to where it's legalized in a majority of the states now. Now you see these athletes, they've gotten in trouble and stuff for it. So how long, like if everybody just said, okay, gambling is great. Gambling is fine. You can do whatever you want to do. You can gamble on whatever you want to do. How long are we talking about it for the negative aurora around gambling to fully go away?
No, never go away.
Well, it has tremendous consequences, JD.
They'll never
People
go away.
lose their houses. They lose their cars. They lose marriages. They do all kinds of things.
And
so you can't say that there are no negative consequences to gambling because there just are.
And to add to that real quick, the only reason, JD, the only reason, in my opinion, that it's legal and it's being promoted, it's being advertised, the only reason for that is because it's a moneymaker.
Tax revenue.
Right. Weed's not like great. They don't say, hey, weed helps you live a longer, better life. But guess what? A lot of states legalize weed because what? Diesel, the same thing you just held up.
Tax revenue.
It generates money. So gambling, it's not great. It's frowned upon, and it always will be in my mind.
Right on. Hey, at the end of the day, money talks and bull crap walks. Y'all know that just as well as I do. And then last question, I'll let you guys run. Did y'all see the whole White Sox player? I don't know if you guys have mentioned it yet or not. The White Sox fan, who was heckling Ketel Marte from the Diamondbacks about his mother who died in a car accident in 2017. The dude broke down in tears on the field before he was ultimately taken out of the game. And fans, let me tell you this. Listen, just because you buy a ticket to the game does not buy you the ability to be disrespectful. They are human beings on this field. You can talk crap, you can talk junk, but let's figure out the line that needs to be drawn in the sand and not cross that line. Y'all be blessed, not stressed.
Yeah, I did see that.
Be better fans, right?
Yeah, that's it. You know what? The problem with that is there are crappy people.
Yes.
In the world, and there are crappy people in every fan base, and I wish you could weed them out, but it's I saw that on ESPN earlier, Diesel. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Both teams, both clubhouses have apologized. That the MLB did take immediate action. They banned the guy.
You can't take away that feeling. You can't take away the emotional toll that it took on the player, and to connect those two conversations together. Just because you bet $10 that Ozzie Albies was going to hit a homer tonight and he doesn't give you the right to get in his DMs to stalk his kids, because people do this, right? We've heard the horror stories.
All kind of stuff.
They break into these guys' houses. They harass their wives, saying that, well, you lost me. I lost $1,000, or I lost $10,000 or $10 million on betting on you. I deserve my money back from you. That's where gambling takes people, because it causes you to make desperate decisions, and some people take it too far. I mean, look, at the end of the day, this is America, right? And we give people the freedom to choose on a lot of things. You know, we try not to make moral decisions on a lot of things you may want to do in your personal life, even though we do that on some other things. You know, morally, we try to say, well, do what you want to do. It's your money. Do what you want to do with it. But there are some very real consequences to taking it too far.
People are just unbelievable sometimes when you look at like instances like this. You just think, why would anybody in their right mind yell something like that?
They're not in their right mind.
It's just awful, man. It's terrible. I did hate to see that.
I saw a stand-up bit on Instagram last week or 2 weeks ago. I think it was Bill Burr, and he said, we're in a society where nobody tells anybody to knock it off anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like when and this was the bit. He's like, man, when I was a kid, when you acted like a jerk, there was somebody who would pop you upside the head and tell you to knock it off.
Yeah.
You know, whether it was another kid, whether it was another parent. And back then, parents used to accept and want other parents to discipline their kid when their kid's being a jerk. Nowadays, it's like, don't touch my kid. Yeah. Well, your kid just did something really terrible. Yeah, but you don't touch my kid. You know, we used to tell people to knock it off. And there's an entire generation of kids who have never been told, knock it off.
True.
And so a lot of people feel like they have the right to just do whatever they want to do, consequence-free. Texter says, to JD's point, just because gambling is legalized does not mean it's a good thing. For example, smoking is legal, but it's not good for you. Yeah, very true.
Texter says they have dilation reversal drops now, going back to my eyes being dilated today. Why didn't they give me that?
You should have come in with a blindfold on.
Well, I had the
eye patch.
Yeah, or the little, what do you call that?
The little wraparound
yeah,
glasses?
The little wrap thing.
Oh,
yeah,
opportunity missed though. You could have worn an eye patch and been a pirate.
I wore it under my sunglasses for like an hour, and then it did give me a headache. I don't know why. I didn't know about dilation reversal drops, as the texter says. See, I'm not an eye expert. By the way, do you realize that the person that you sit across from every day has like worst vision in the world? Like, not literally, but
you have alluded to the fact before that you have big, thick, ugly glasses, and you've never worn them on the air.
She said, the doctor today, when I had my contacts out, she said, can you read this one? It was the biggest. You know how they put the thing on the screen? Mm-hmm. The biggest text option? I couldn't read it.
Like, not at all?
No.
Not a single
She said,
letter.
can you read this banner beside me with like the big letter?
How about the billboard across the road?
I couldn't read
Can
it.
you read that?
It's bad.
That
It's
is bad.
It is horrible. Thank God for contacts, right?
Whew. Cole, tomorrow is a big day. The NBA draft, excuse me, tonight. Tonight is a big night. The NBA draft, we're going to find out who the Charlotte Hornets might take with the number 4 pick. And not to get into it, but just filling a couple of seconds here before we run off to break.
Yeah.
Brian Windhorst is all over the Celtics making their moves. You know, they moved on from Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday as well. Mm-hmm. And now he is saying that the Celtics may look to trade away Jaylen Brown and Derek White, 2 huge pieces for the Celtics over the last couple of years in a bid to save money, and that they could potentially target Con Knippel as their rookie acquisition, who just so happens to be so far linked most to Con Knippel in the NBA draft, the Charlotte Hornets. So we spent some time yesterday talking about how the Hornets basically traded away every elite player they ever had a chance to draft, and that's why they don't get good things, because they don't deserve good things, because they don't know what to do with good things. I mean, could you imagine the Charlotte Hornets trading away Con Knippel as their pick for an injured Jaylen Brown, who is on the back end of his career, and them thinking, that's a great idea. And then Con Knippel goes on to be a great player.
It would be bad. Like, it all depends for me, Diesel, when you talk about that draft possibility. For me, it all depends on where you are with your franchise. Like, if you're in a spot where you can plug in a guy like Jaylen Brown and he can take you to a playoff run, then I'm all for it. However, you look at this Charlotte Hornets organization, they're far from that. They're very, 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 very far from being a playoff team. So, you know, like I said, if you're let's just pick a random team out of the ether that had a really good year, the Rockets before they got KD, or you know, a team like the Los Angeles Clippers, and you can add a guy like Jaylen Brown, you do it. Jaylen Brown's one of the best players in the NBA. He was a big part of the Boston Celtics championship. However, if you're the Charlotte Hornets, do you care about adding that guy and getting 5 years of good play out of Jaylen Brown and selling some tickets? Or do you want to build, the future, an organization around a guy like Con Knippel that could be the face of your franchise?
Yeah, but how many times have you ever driven past a construction site for like 5 years and it never seems like they do anything? That's the Charlotte Hornets. Yeah. And to be fair, Brian Windhorst is not directly linking Charlotte to Jaylen Brown in a Con Knippel, Jaylen Brown picks kind of trade. Yeah. It's just to say that the Celtics may want to move on from Jaylen. They really like Con. Charlotte has, in theory, access to draft Con.
And look, I understand the risk. There is risk with Con Knippel. I totally get that, because you just don't know what you're going to get. You know what you're going to get with a guy like Jaylen Brown. He's played in the NBA. He knows what it takes to win, and he's won a championship. So I will say this, though, and I hadn't mentioned this. It'd be a huge mistake in my mind for Boston to move off of him. He's a staple. And I know you got some injuries you're dealing with, but he's a staple in my mind. It'd be hard for me to let that guy go.
And a texter says, no way you just said Jaylen Brown is on the back end. Apologies here. That was a mistake. For some reason, I thought Jaylen Brown was older than 28. For some reason, I was thinking he was like 31, 32. He is injured. He did have a knee injury. So, again, I wasn't 100% accurate on his age.
I'm getting text on the text line of eye care recommendations. That's funny.
I think somebody's trying to pitch their company.
I've already been. I'm not going again for another year. You only go once a year. You order your contacts or whatever. Diesel, in the very next segment, I want to bring some audio to your attention, to the attention of the Tolos. Eric Bakich, the head baseball coach of the Clemson Tigers, he sounded off last night on a sports show here in the state of South Carolina and gave his thoughts on what happened with Kevin Schnall in the College World Series. You don't want to miss this. Do you agree with what Eric Bakich said? That's next. Well, Diesel, we spent a lot of time on Monday talking about Kevin Schnall. You know what happened, Tolos, in case you have been under a rock or in a cave for the past few days. Kevin Schnall was the number one topic after Coastal Carolina got defeated by LSU on Sunday in 2 games, Saturday and Sunday. The Kevin Schnall ejection sent people in a panic, all over social media. You and I discussed it, Diesel. We heard from the Tolos, but now we have heard from Eric Bakich, the head baseball coach of the Clemson Tigers. He yesterday was on Sports Talk Media Network with Phil Kornblut. Obviously, Smitty, who we have on, is with Sports Talk Media Network as well. Here's about a minute of audio on what Eric Bakich had to say, Diesel. And I'm not tooting my own horn, but boy, does it sound similar to what I said on Monday.
The best umpires, the best officials, the best ones that are in charge of that, they're really good at diffusing situations. And the worst ones are the ones that instigate and antagonize and look for conflict. And when you have an Angel Campos or a Billy Van Rapperhorst or guys that are on the side of looking for conflict, then conflict happens. And then you have some really good umpires that are they're professionals at diffusing a situation, and they know how to manage a situation so it doesn't get to that point. And it's just a shame that had to be part of the narrative of that game. Now, not to take anything away from LSU, but that shouldn't be part of the narrative of the College World Series National Championship.
And I think we can all agree that the fact that is the narrative, that is what we led the show with. That's what every show led the show with, Diesel, is sad. Your reaction to what Eric Bakich said on the best officials in the game.
I mean, I agree. I did say that I wished the umpire, Angel Campos, had waited until the end of that half inning, gone into the dugout, and had a one-on-one conversation with Kevin Schnall. I also did put some blame on Kevin Schnall. I mean, he was arguing balls and strikes, and then he called him out again twice, halfway between the dugout and home plate. And if I recall correctly, he was in that little painted area where coaches are allowed to be. So it's not that I'm saying he was in a part of the field that he wasn't supposed to be on.
Sure.
But he very much got upset. When he was tossed, he walked to home plate, and he kind of, bulldogged him, right? He kind of came at him pretty hard, pretty aggressively. And I still don't think he bumped the other umpire. I don't think that happened. I mean, I've still yet to see any camera angle other than the main broadcast feed where the umpire's back was pointed toward the camera. So it's hard to tell, but I genuinely don't think that he bumped him. Maybe it was a umpire saw this big, scary dude coming at him, so he changed course and tried to backtrack and then tripped over his own feet.
Yeah, it very well could have been. And you know what? The replies to that piece of audio were really interesting, Tolos. If you did not get a chance to get your thoughts in on what happened Monday, you can right now at 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663 before we get into the daily wires here in a few minutes. But one reply on Twitter, Diesel said, I love reading replies, by the way. They're so funny. One guy said, baseball umpires have too much power, particularly when it comes to ejections. The umpire can be awful all game long, and players and coaches just have to take it. Then they can make terrible decisions like this one, and there's no recourse until the game has passed. There's a little bit of that I agree with, in the sense that not necessarily that baseball umpires have too much power, but to that response, to that reply, Diesel, the fact that the coaches and the players, when the umpire makes bad calls, there's absolutely nothing they can do. They have to live with it, but one bad decision by a coach or a player results in what we saw on Sunday.
Maybe we need to implement sort of a soccer yellow card, red card system. You know, where one referee, let's just say this, one referee cannot by themselves unilaterally decide to eject somebody. It takes a second umpire.
Ooh.
It's, you know,
yeah. I don't hate that.
Yeah, I mean, let's just say that Angel Compost said, you know what, he was out of line. I'm going to hold up my red card. And I would love for it to be like in the movie Dodgeball, where he has to pull out the little yellow dangly rope with a bell on it or something like that. You got to hit him with the rope, and then another umpire, whether it be a lead official in the booth, whether it be the center field umpire, somebody who's not right there in the heart and the heat of the situation, also has to concur and say, yes, that was an ejectable offense. No, that was not an ejectable offense. You know, like, don't let one guy make that decision. Have another referee on the field whose job it is to either confirm or deny.
Here is what the one and only Rob Brown, Diesel of the Rob Brown Show, said about it. This was on our socials at the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, as you can tell in this clip, was not happy. If I unmute it, it will, it'll play better, by the way. Just a quick tip for anybody out there. Well, it's still not playing. There we go. There we go.
28.
Let's try again.
My favorite postseason in sport. It was ruined. 28 pitches into the game, Kevin Schnall gets ejected, and there is no reason other than Charmin soft, ego-driven, B-A umpire with a capital B and a capital A. The biggest B and the biggest A. You can't do that. Letter of the law and spirit of the law both need a context, and the context of running the head coach of a national championship team, because he had the audacity to challenge you. Win, by the way. He was right. I don't know that having Kevin Schnall would have saved Coastal Carolina. What I do know is they weren't winning without him. I'm not saying they would have for certain beat LSU, but they damn sure weren't beating LSU and forcing a decisive Game 3 without him. Or you know when you get past the point of anger and you're just in white-hot rage to the point that you don't yell anymore? You talk like this. I was talk to myself angry. You ever been talk to yourself angry? This is the angriest I've been at sports in a long time. I have to assume Kevin Schnall came on the field and described in great detail gratuitous acts of a sexual nature that he engaged with the umpire's mom. Like, that's the only thing I can come up with that would have appropriately got him run. What I saw was him saying, you missed 3 calls. Gone. He got run because he called the guy out for being bad at his job, and Angel Campos got his feelings hurt.
You know, my biggest takeaway from that emotional video of Rob Brown is I feel bad for that microphone right there. Rob needs to, for those that don't know,
there's a dent in it now.
You go out of our door and Rob and Lonzo's office is straight. Rob can literally do the show from his office.
Yeah. Well, most people don't realize he doesn't even use a microphone.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he could just sit in his chair, face this way, and he wouldn't need to even leave his office. He could do the whole... I mean, the over-modulation, I feel bad for that mic there, man. That's tough. That is tough. But I love the emotion there. I love the emotion.
There are overused arguments in sports. And I think one of the biggest, one of them is being the other opponent, the opponent's scared. They're scared of us. Or the everything to lose, nothing to gain, why you won't schedule somebody. Or, in this case, the umpire just made it about themselves. I hate that argument. It is lame. It is weak. It is assuming the thoughts of someone else, assuming that the referee or the umpire in this game, and that game, over the course of years, they all have the same ego where they say, you know what? Before the game starts, I'm going to make my name be put in the news tomorrow. I genuinely do not believe
it's all about
that
me.
Any umpire ever says, you know what? I'm going to make it about me today. Maybe they have a short trigger. Maybe they have a short fuse. Maybe they feel like, hey, I'm an authoritarian type of umpire, and I'm going to make sure that my games are officiated by the letter of the law. and I'm not going to let people get away with things.
I think him and his wife got in an argument. What I think happened. I really do. I think that's what happened. And she told him he had to sell his boat, and he had to come to work.
No,
and he wasn't happy.
It's that somewhere there is a serial peer, like that. Somebody peed in his cornflakes today. There's a rash. There's a gang of people who go around peeing in umpires' cornflakes to make sure they have a terrible day on game day. It's a menace, honestly, and it needs to be stopped. When we come back, Cole, let's take our whip around the sports world, see what else is happening out there. We call them our Daily Wires. Lots to get to, no time to waste. These are our Daily Wires. The buzz happening around the sports world. Last night, the Atlanta Braves won their second straight in the series and fifth straight over the Mets. Wait, I thought the Mets were good. I thought the Mets were good. Who is this Atlanta Braves team?
I love it.
They've taken now, 5 straight from the Mets? Three
5
on the
straight.
road?
Yeah.
Or 3 at home, 2
Yeah.
on the road.
I love it,
They
man.
got still 2 more games to go.
I love watching the
in this
Mets
series.
lose. It doesn't matter who to. This is great. They've lost 9 of their last 10 or 10 of their last 11 now.
Well, Mets gonna Met, right? Spencer Strider got the win last night in 5 innings of work. He gave up 2 hits, 3 earned runs, 4 walks, and 8 Ks. On the other side of things, Matt Olson went 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs. Shortstop Nick Allen went 3 for 4. Austin Riley, Ozzie Albies, and Eli White,
There you go.
hometown kid, all tallied RBIs as well.
Love it.
Round 1 of the NBA draft is tonight at 8 o'clock on ABC and ESPN. The hometown, local at least, Charlotte Hornets have the 4th pick, and they are mocked to be taking Con Knipple from
I just
Duke.
hope they just get somebody good. That's all. You don't have to go hit this thing out of the park and try to find the next Michael Jordan. Just draft a good player and don't trade him. How about that?
The Celtics, speaking of trades, the Celtics traded Kristaps Porzingis to the Hawks as part of a 3-team deal that also includes the Nets. Terrence Mann and Atlanta's number 22 pick go to the Nets. Help me out with his name. Georges Niang?
Yeah, sounds right.
Right? Georges Niang. And a second-round pick will go to Boston. The Celtics also sent Drew Holiday to the Trailblazers for Anthony Simons. And the Celtics will save $180 million in luxury taxes across both of those deals.
It is weird. We'll see how that works out, with Porzingis. I mean, it's
Feels
Hawks,
like the Celtics are starting over.
I don't know why. They just
Right?
won the championship, a year ago. I can't figure this out, but it's NBA.
All-star guard Kyrie Irving is declining his $43 million player option and intends to sign a brand new 3-year, $119 million contract to stay with the Mavs. The $1.5 billion sale of the Minnesota Timberwolves from Glenn Taylor to an investment group led by e-commerce entrepreneur Mark Lohr and former baseball star Alex Rodriguez finally gained NBA approval yesterday, finalizing a really complex process that took more than 4 years to finish off. How about that? Timberwolves worth $1.5 billion, the Lakers worth $10 billion.
Is that it?
Yeah,
That's all?
is that all?
I mean, come on. What are we doing?
2-time major champion Colin Morikawa is in the market for a new caddy, Cole, if you're looking for a job. He parted
Where do I
ways
apply?
with his caddy Joe Griner ahead of this week's Rocket Classic in Detroit. Morikawa's former college teammate at Cal Berkeley, KK Limhoust, who competes on the Korn Ferry Tour, will carry his bag at the Detroit Golf Club this weekend. Griner, who worked with Max Homa until they split back in April, had been on Morikawa's bag for the past 5 PGA Tour starts. Morikawa made the cut in each of them, but didn't finish higher than a tie for 17th, which he did at the Truist Championship
Sign
on
me
May
up, man.
11th. How about that?
Sign me up.
That's a pro golfer firing the guy who carries his bag
crazy.
because he's not playing any better.
It's crazy. It really is.
Pittsburgh Pirates outfielder O'Neal Cruz said that he lost track of the outs when he didn't run out a double play grounder, a move that led to his removal from the club's 9-3 loss to the Brewers yesterday. The Pirates were trailing 7-3 and had a runner on first with 1 out in the 7th when Cruz grounded into a 6-4-3 double play. Cruz slowed down after they got the force out at second and said that he thought that was the 3rd out of the inning.
Wow. Big mistake there.
That to me tells me there's something more going on, right?
Yeah.
That there's an attitude issue or something, because otherwise I don't think that'd be grounds for pulling
Right.
somebody from a game.
Right.
Social media and fitness influencer Brian Johnson, also known as the Liver King, was arrested by the Austin Police Department for making threatening videos online, including a challenge to Joe Rogan to fight him in Austin, Texas. Liver King has 2.9 million followers on Instagram and faces a Class B misdemeanor charge for making a terroristic threat.
That's crazy. I know
right?
who he is, but that's weird.
And finally, Steve Spurrier took a swipe at Arch Manning, at least that's what they're calling it, when he said these words.
Have it next segment.
We'll have it next segment. How about that? But yeah, it's a really fun situation going on with Steve. Steve being Steve, and we love it. So we're going to get back into that conversation and break it down next.